Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and thank you for returning this morning. You've been recalled as prospective jurors in this case now before us.
Nearly 4 years after he was arrested and charged with the deaths of J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell is on trial. He faces 8 counts, including murder, conspiracy, and insurance fraud. I was at the Ada County Courthouse for the first day of jury selection all day. The judge, prosecution, and defense just finished or should be wrapping up questioning that second group of potential jurors. Of the 32 questioned today, at this point, we know 13 are moving forward. Ultimately, they need to get to 18 jurors. Jurors were first given instructions, followed by the state and defense asking group questions during a process called voir dire. Jurors were then questioned individually. Today, potential jurors were told they have to determine the facts and apply them to the law. They were asked questions like, could any hardships get in the way of them serving on this case for up to 10 weeks? Do they know about Daybell's case from the media? And do they have an opinion about whether Daybell is guilty based on what they know? During individual voir dire, potential jurors were asked whether the death penalty being on the table will impact their ability to give a fair and impartial verdict. And just as they did in Lori's trial, the state asked if jurors had concerns over being shown evidence someone was killed, but not knowing the specific cause of death. This first round of jury selection comes after more than 2,000 people filled out juror questionnaires at the Ada County Courthouse last week. We know jury selection could take all week, potentially longer, and this trial could last up to 10 weeks with a 2-week penalty phase on the back end if the jury finds Daybell guilty.
The Lori Vallow trial was obviously gave us a lot of insight into how we would do things this trial.
Ada County will once again host a high-profile murder case over the next 2 months.
Even the ones that were mildly paying attention now have a much clearer understanding of what the case and what the facts are about.
1 year after his wife Lori Vallow Daybell was tried and convicted in the very same courtroom,
conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty.
Chad Daybell will stand trial for the murders of J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, and Tammy Daybell, who he's accused of killing in 2019.
Come on up with the mic, Larry. Thank y'all.
With all the publicity around Lori's trial,
Power, sex, and greed. For what?
She received so much attention.
Former Ada County Chief Deputy Prosecutor Gene Fisher says anyone paying attention to Chad's case now knows the facts presented in Lori's case.
And they also know what some of that really compelling evidence was against her, but it necessarily implicated him because of the conspiracy nature of what was happening.
Which would make it more challenging to seat a jury this week. Chad and Lori's trials were moved out of Fremont and into Ada County 2 years ago, with Ada having the largest population in Idaho and more resources.
We've been preparing on an ongoing basis since that trial with, quarterly and then monthly meetings with the folks from Southeast Idaho.
Ada County Administrative Judge Stephen Hippler says there's a better chance of finding a fair and impartial jury here. Is this putting a burden on Ada County?
Well, yeah. In some senses, sure. We are in a situation here where our judges are all extraordinarily busy. We're in a crisis with court reporters. We've outgrown this courthouse in terms of number of courtrooms that we need.
During this voir dire phase, Judge Boyce says 16 people will be called in at a time and questioned until they get to 50 potential jurors. The prosecution and defense each get 16 peremptory challenges where they don't have to explain why they're excusing jurors. At the end of jury selection, which could take the whole week or longer, they'll end up with 12 jurors and 6 alternates.
I do think that you can find a jury. Nobody says when you look for a jury that you don't have to know anything about anything, because otherwise that doesn't represent your peers either.
Unlike Lori's case, Chad faces the death penalty if found guilty of any or all of the murders. That adds another challenge to seating a jury and adds more questions for potential jurors.
A person who is philosophically just opposed to the death penalty and under any circumstances wouldn't vote for it, they're not eligible to serve on the jury.
When the jury deliberates at the end of Chad's trial, Hippler says they'll be sequestered. If they find him guilty and find the state proved at least one aggravating factor, the trial immediately goes into a penalty phase for about 2 weeks.
And the state then puts on all of its aggravating factors, and then the defense gets to put on its mitigating factors, which is a whole nother mini trial. And it's more of the history and background of Chad Daybell.
Jurors have to be sequestered for that as well.
The jury has to unanimously vote to impose a death penalty before one could lawfully be carried out.
If they can't reach a unanimous verdict, default punishment is life in prison. I just got an update from Nate Eaton, with East Idaho News. He's been in the courtroom since the time frame that we have not, and he says questioning of the second group of potential jurors just ended. Of the 32 questioned today, 16 are moving forward. As I mentioned in that story, they do need a jury pool of 50 jurors to then move on to peremptory challenges. For everything you need to know about the upcoming trial, about this trial currently going on, you can text the word Daybell to 208-321-5614. We'll send you the latest on what's happening in the case. You can also get all the latest information on ktvb.com.